Hey guys, Ellie here. Today, I bring you guys the first ever episode of Thursday Talks. 2 days ago, we had our first episode of Tuesday Talks, and I think it went really well. You guys seemed to enjoy it in the comment section. It was fun for me and Meg to go to Longhorn Lester's. It made my dad really happy for me to be there. So, all in all, a very pleasant and positive experience. So, for today's Thursday topic, I found one that somebody said they wanted to know more about my mom's side of the family, which makes sense because on my page, I talk a lot about my dad's side of the family. I mean, I'm there so much, and there's 7 people who have YouTube channels on that side of the family, but I hardly ever showcase or talk about my mom's side of the family. So that's what today's Thursday talk will be about. I'm starting to sweat like a dog because it's really hot out here. I don't know if you can see the sun, but it's just beaming. I've been out here a few minutes. I'm already starting to sweat. So let's go ahead and make this quick. Let's get right into it. So, for my mom's side of the family, a little bit of background about my mother. She's around the same age as my dad. She was actually born and raised for the first 8 or 9 years of her life in Mexico City. So, that means that I'm half Mexican, half Hispanic, for those of you that didn't know. I think I've talked about that before, but not all of you may have known that. My mom is purely Mexican, Hispanic. As for my mom's entire side of the family, which is pretty cool. And that might be why my hair is the way that it is, because like fully Caucasian white people don't often have hair like this a lot of the time. But yeah, my mom and her family moved to the United States when she was 9 years old, like I was saying, I guess to kind of pursuing the American dream sort of thing. And my mom is really proud of herself because she went to college. She learned English as a second language because being from Mexico, Spanish was her first language. So she's bilingual, and she was a bilingual teacher for a very long time, and she was very good at it. So she has made herself quite the career and quite the life over here in America. And of course, she met my dad, and then she had me. And so I'm very blessed and grateful for that, obviously, because I wouldn't be here otherwise, you know. What else about my mom's side of the family? Let me go ahead and put some pictures on the screen right here to kind of give you a visual representation of what we got going on. So right here, you'll see, y'all know my stepdad, RP, their initials just like LE, my mom, obviously, me, and the fourth person would be my mom's mother, my grandma. We call her Wella. It's a cute story, actually, because when my cousin Stephanie was a little girl, my grandma would take care of her. And grandma in Spanish, because we're Spanish speaking primarily, grandma in Spanish is abuela, but my cousin Stephanie, when she was little, couldn't pronounce it right, so she would say like huela instead of abuela. And so that's kind of how the nickname Huela kind of stuck. And my grandpa on my mom's side is Huelo, because abuelo is grandpa in Spanish. So those are the little nicknames that we give them. That's what I've called her my whole life, and what I still call her to this day, even though I'm 22 years old. And other pictures, let's see. Oh yeah, this right here is a picture of me with RP's 2 biological children. So they would be my stepbrother and stepsister, Ryan and Sarah. It's a pretty old picture. You can tell by the way that my hair is that it's straight and practically ancient. That would have been back in like 2016 or 17. Over here, we have some of the same family members that I've shown you before, but in the back, you have my cousin Stephanie, who Megan gets confused all the time with, because on my dad's side of the family, my cousin Buddy is married to a Stephanie, and so I kind of call her my cousin too. She would technically be my cousin-in-law, I suppose, if you're doing technical terms. But when I say Stephanie, my cousin Stephanie, Megan always gets confused, like Stephanie Buddy's wife or like cousin Stephanie on your mom's side. And so it's kind of a little silly there. And that would be her fiance behind her, Ivan. Ivan's really awesome. Me and him get along very well. Other pictures. Oh yeah, right here we got my Aunt Lucy, my mom's sister, and their 2 children, Debbie and Zoe. They'll be flower girls at our wedding, so y'all might see them on that day, actually. So yeah, that right there is just a small little fraction of the family on my mom's side. A lot of them live in Mexico, so it would take me 3 hours to do the whole video about every single family and their families, so on and so forth. So I just stuck with the ones that are here in America right now because a lot of them stayed in Mexico. But what else to talk about? Oh yeah, funny story. This will be a fun fact about my mom's side of the family. I remember I was about 9 or 10 years old, something like that. And my dad and I were having a conversation about voyages to Mars, the planet, because that was a big deal back around that time. They were always talking about how we're getting close to being able to go to Mars and take humanity there and stuff. And my dad had always talked about how the government or NASA would only choose the most genetically superior families out there to take on the voyage to Mars because you want to be able to kind of start a new colony over there. And so you need the healthiest, most likely to survive families over there. And I had told my dad that I bet they would choose us if we tried to apply for it, because in my little 9 to 10-year-old brain, I was picturing my dad, Pawpaw, Uncle Dan, Dustin, all like big, tall, strong men. So I figured that we would have to be chosen. But my dad kind of explained to me like, yeah, I wouldn't be so sure about that, Ellie, because I'm not going to go through it right now. That's kind of a personal detail. But a lot of people in our family kind of have different disorders and different things that we have to work through, myself included. So long story short, the Maros are not genetically perfect. I mean, nobody really is. But the point was that my dad was trying to get across is that we probably wouldn't be selected for that voyage to Mars. And so I was like, I guess not. But now, remembering that story over 10 years later, I'm thinking that, you know what? My mom's side of the family, the Garcias, might have a really good chance of being chosen for the Mars voyage if it came down to that. Because check this out. My grandma, Wella, is 70 years old, incredibly healthy, no health problems whatsoever. People at work are in awe of how old she is because she looks so much younger. My grandpa, Wello, over 84, I think he's like 85 or something like that. 84, about to be 85, I'm pretty sure. No health problems whatsoever. Maybe slight diabetes, but hardly anything. Incredibly healthy. Also looks very young for his age. Y'all already know about my mom. When I made an interview video with her a few months ago, everybody in the comments was in awe of how young she looked for her age. Like they thought she looked in her 20s or whatever. And so that was really sweet, but it's true. All three of them are incredibly healthy. And get this might be the craziest of all. My aunt has had not one, but 2 babies after she turned 40 years old. For those of you who don't know, the older a woman gets, like especially if they start getting to their late 30s and early 40s, it can be a little bit dangerous for them to have a baby because it takes a toll on the body to give birth. And so it's definitely not recommended for a woman to give birth or get pregnant when she's that old. But my aunt has done it twice. She's given birth twice over the age of 40 with no problems, no complications whatsoever. So if those things don't speak to the Garcia family genetics, I don't know what does. It's kind of funny. I remember when I was a teenager, I was obsessed with basketball, and basketball players are notorious for being super tall. So as a result, I was obsessed with height. Like, it was my god, it was my idol back then. All I could do was eat, breathe, and sleep basketball and trying to grow tall and stuff like that. So I used to kind of be a little bit bitter that my mom's side of the family, they're not the tallest. I'll just be honest, they're not very tall. And so I used to always sit there and think like, man, I wish I was born to a taller family. And that's a really cruel and harsh thing to think. I feel bad that I thought that back then, but I can say now that I'm past the height phase and now that I see things a little bit differently, I'm grateful to God that I was born into my mom's side of the family because of how healthy they are, how healthy their genes are, and the healthy habits they've instilled in me. You can go into my mom's refrigerator right now and you'll see watermelon, spinach, and all kinds of healthy foods that I'm glad to eat. So I'm very, very blessed. That's kind of one of those things where they always talk about like, you may not understand how God works at one time, but then later on, once you see the whole picture, it'll make better sense and you'll be grateful that you didn't get what you wanted. I was so obsessed with height when I was a teenager that I was willing to go so far as to have a limb lengthening surgery. I researched this tirelessly when I was a teenager. There's this usually cosmetic procedure, they call it limb lengthening surgery. And what they're able to do is they're able to have a doctor actually break the bones in your legs, your tibia, in your femur. And bone is a living tissue. So as a result of that, they can put a device around the bone on the inside, like surgically, and then they can have a remote on the exterior after the surgery is completed, and they can use the remote to gradually stretch the device, which will subsequently gradually stretch the bone, and the bone will always repair and regenerate itself because it's a living tissue. You can't go too fast, otherwise you would split the bone in half and then it'd be a split bone, you know. And you can't go too slow, because if you go too slow, the bone would fully fuse together and you wouldn't be able to grow it anymore. So they're able to go at the perfect rate to where it slightly fuses, but to where it's still kind of elastic to where it can stretch some more. And so you guys might ask, well, sheesh, Ellie, number one, that's barbaric, which it is. But for two, if bone's a living tissue, why can't you just stretch it and grow it forever to make your legs 30 feet long if you wanted to? In theory, you could, except the things around the bone, like your arteries, your blood vessels, your veins, the actual tissue, muscles, those things cannot be stretched. They will tear, they will rip. And so that's a simple explanation as to why you can't stretch your bones 30 feet long, your leg bones. So the cap was usually at about 3 inches per segment. So you could do 3 inches for your femur and 3 inches for your tibia. But it's crazy that I was willing to go that far to pay however many tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to literally have to break my legs and stretch them out so I could be 3 to 6 inches taller. It would have definitely immobilized me. I wouldn't have been able to play basketball and football the way that I'm able to now. I would have had a bunch of like rigorous physical therapy, would have probably had complications and pain in my legs when I got older. So that's another example of how God didn't give me what I wanted back then, but I'm grateful to God that he didn't, because it makes sense now, looking back on it a few years later. Oh, I've touched on a wide variety of things in this video. But that about summarizes what I can say about my mom's side of the family. Maybe someday I will go to the houses and get some interviews, get some personal videos with my family. I've made a video of my cousin Stephanie a few times before because she has the polydactyl cats, the cats with the extra thumbs. And so y'all can go back on my channel around a year or two ago and you'll see a video I made with Stephanie and with Ivan. But in general, it's always a possibility to get more videos with my mom's side of the family. But that right there about summarizes them. And as always, I hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to let me know in the comments what kind of stuff you want to see, or give me any other topic ideas for the Tuesday and Thursday talks. Hope you all have an incredible day. And as I always say, your boy Ellie out.